Hello, sir. Good evening.
Hello, Advay. Hello, good evening.
Hello.
Good evening, Anita. Good evening, Sneha.
Hi.
Yeah, give me a second. Okay. Yeah.
So I fixed the issue I was getting, like for that sequence of numbers, that I fixed the issue.
Really, that's good
Yeah.
to hear.
Actually, without the for loop, I did it.
You did without the for loop. We have actually multiple ways of achieving
I
the.
used with the split function.
Oh, you use the split function. Okay, so we have Sneha, Advay, Anita. Anita, hi Anita. Good evening. Good evening, Sneha. Yeah, Hasini will not be attending today. So let me share my screen. And yeah, today after today's session, right? From next week onwards, we will start working on all the use cases, like all the programs. We'll work on the programs. Mostly the concepts, basics of Java would be completed. Okay, means completed means the whatever is needed. So it would be most of the things you can achieve with whatever you have learned so far. Okay, I know anything new comes up, that I'll keep on adding. Okay, so fine. Hi Aditya, good evening. Hello Aditya, you're there? Can you hear me, Aditya? Okay, I think Aditya is still joining. Yeah, fine. So today, right, we'll talk about the loops. Loops are very important in Java. Okay, because any use case that you try to implement, right, you would be using the loops, and string buffer and string builder. So these three are important classes of text type. So text type means whenever you want to type any text, right, so you can use these three object types. So string is a class, string buffer is a class, string builder is a class. Okay, so we'll do this part today. We'll try to complete all these four things. Then you would be pretty much comfortable in completing the basic tasks. Okay, so fine. Oh yeah, so I have very few questions today. So Sneha was not there last week. Sneha, did you go through the video last week?
I have to catch up on lesson 6, I think, but I'm caught up until 5. So.
Okay, I hope I sent all the links, right? All
Yes,
the links of
yes.
Okay, fine. So any doubts, right? So first, I suggest first lesson is not of that much useful, because it's I talk a lot in that, so we won't be getting anything much in the first lesson. So from lesson 2 onwards, quite important. Okay. So anything that you are struck, just go back.
Gopal, my charge is very low. I will, once it is disconnected, I will rejoin again.
Okay, sure, Anita. Yeah, sure. So Aditya, you are there? Hello, Aditya. Okay, now I'll ask these two questions to Advay only. So logical not. So how do you
Logical not is represented by the exclamation mark.
Okay, how about the ternary operator?
Question mark. First like we like write the condition, then question mark, then the if statement, then colon represents the else statement.
No. Yeah, if statement will not come here actually. Okay, if statement will not come. So you have to do something like this. So this is expression. Okay, so expression can be true or false. And then if it is true, question mark represents if it is true, then so this is success statement. If it is not true, means colon. So here it would be failed statement. Okay.
Yes, I was telling that only.
Yeah. I know, but you have to use the right terms. So if you say if condition, right? So here you'll not see any if condition, but this is pretty much equal to if else statement. So Sneha, this is the new item that which I did not mention in the presentation, but we are using this which reduces the lines of code and then can be used in specific use cases. So what does it represent is like if this condition is true, then whatever you represent here, it would be executed. If this condition is false, whatever is written after this colon, right, it would be executed.
Okay.
So it is like if else statement. So
Right.
something like if this condition gets executed, then it is also like this is success, right? So similarly for fail means this part.
Okay.
So both are same. These two expressions are same. Okay. So when do we use this one is mostly in this situation, like you want to directly assign a value to any variable based on certain condition. So what you do, string name is equal to, so what I do here, so here, so take any other parameter like input is not null. So is not null usually how we do, null not equal to. So if there is a value in the input, right, then what we do, I'll just assign certain value. So not null means it is having some value already. So input. So empty, something like this. Okay. So means what this statement does is, so if I assume that this input is passed here and this is of type string. Okay. So user is passing this input, and if this input is not empty, means it has some value in it. So if it has some value, use that value. If it doesn't have any value, right, so you just make it as empty and assign it to a variable name. Okay, and then you can further use this name anywhere. So s out, and then you can use name like this. Okay, so I'll just undo the thing so that I'll keep it in a previous state. Okay. So I hope you understood the ternary operator, right? Advay and Sneha?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Aditya, how about you? So I think Aditya, I'm not able to hear you. So you just yeah, let me send him the chat message. Oh yeah, he's telling like he has got some audio issues. Fine, okay. So you can just hear me. So I'll be interacting with mostly today with Ila, Sneha, and Advay. Fine. So we'll go to this next slide. We are done with the revision part, right? So we'll go to the next slide. Yeah, this one we already have seen this. So Sneha, you know, right? Why do we use this private, public, protected, and default?
Yes, I saw that.
Okay. So you just see the visibility of the class. So just to have the visibility. So where is the visibility within the package, outside the package? So we use this access modifiers. Okay. Fine. So we have gone through all these assignment operators already. So up to last class. So we have learned, how to add two strings, like, when you take the string data type, right? This plus represents the concatenation. Concatenations. If it is a number, then plus represents the addition. Okay. But if you are using hyphen for string, right? No, we cannot use it. Okay. It is not like that. So minus is for the numbers, subtraction. So asterisk is for the multiplication, division is the forward slash. And for checking the remainder, we can use the modular symbol, percentage. And plus plus represents the increment. Minus minus is the decrement. So you all know all these arithmetic operators and assignment operators also, plus is equal to, minus is equal to, star is equal to, forward slash is equal to, and then modulus is equal to. So the meaning of this, I have mentioned it in the brackets. Okay. And then comparison operators also, like comparison is like checking the conditions. So you can just remember this comparison. So we are comparing two variables. So when you are comparing two variables, you have to use this comparison operators, like, if it is equal to or if it is not equal to. So not equal to, you just saw here, right? Whatever I wrote, like input not equal to null, right? Means it is not empty. So you can use this not equal to. And then if for the numbers, you can check whether it is greater than or less than. So if you want to check along with greater than, if it is equal to the number, greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to, you can use the same operators. So comparison operators for comparisons. And then if you want to check the multiple conditions, so we use logical operators. So logical operators behaves like this. And means, so yeah, let me write it over here. Logical operators is like, so A and B means A should be true and B should be true. Then only it will execute the further step. Something like this. If A and B. Okay. If I represent like this, A should be true and B should also be true, then only it will enter this condition, this block. Otherwise, it will not enter. So logical and represents both should be success. So logical OR. So if I remove this and then make logical operator OR. So what does it means, Advay?
Either A or B should be true.
Correct. So either A should be, if A is true, right? Then it will not check B. So it will directly get inside this if condition. If A is not true, means A is false, then it will check B. Okay. Fine. So logical OR operator is done, and then not. Not is like, when A.
For Boolean statement.
Correct. Suppose A is true, right? If you mention not symbol of A, then the negation of A. So A is true means not of A means false. So when it is false, it will enter into this loop. It's like that. Something like this. If A is equal to false, if A is false, and then not of A. So what will become not of A? Negation of false becomes true. So this condition will get satisfied and it will enter into this if block. Okay. So now logical operators are also done. So we have done all these, most of the operators, and let's get into this. So this is a very important topic. Okay. So for this, right, we'll write a controller, a new controller. Okay. So instead of writing the controller newly, I'll just copy paste. Okay, so I do string operations controller, because string operations, I'll just use it in the same package and then go inside. I don't want all other stuff, right? So all the functions I'll remove, all the methods. Okay, this class, okay, this is a RESTful service for learning string operations. Okay, and then I remove this part. So string string. So I'll just mention learn string API learn string. Okay, now let's write a function. So yeah, it's okay. I'll just make these changes later. So we got the template structure ready now. Okay, this is the template for our RESTful service. So here one thing I want to highlight. So why we are using RESTful service? So I just wanted to give you a feel of how advanced Java will look like. So this is all advanced. Okay, advanced Java, and then we say it as microservice. So either you can do this for your learning. You can either you can just make main. You can write main, and then you can take out this part. These annotations you can take it out. So this is like you can test it inside the controller. So inside the console. So whatever you type here, everything will be printed here. So you no need to use the browser at this point. Okay, but we are using the RESTful service because I wanted to give you more information on the real-time applications. So the real-time applications will be used using the RESTful service. Okay, that's why I wanted to give you a feel of the RESTful service, the microservice. Okay, now let's get into this. So what are we learning now? String. Okay, all these days, right? From the first class to seventh class until seventh lesson, we learned about int, right? Int is for number, and then boolean is for true or false, right? And long is for bigger numbers, and then float and double is for decimal numbers. Now we want to really consider about the text. So I have a certain paragraphic statements, paragraphic text that we can use it using the string. Okay. So string is a class. String is a class. Remember this. So let me type and what shall we? Okay, I'll just type it as name. Okay, this is a name. This is the first param of first. This is a text parameter. Okay, and return the processed result. The function. So we will type about this something like, okay, this function
Helps in learning.
takes to see if the entered text is greater than 50 characters. Returns it. Okay, just some kind of text that you want to understand. So now what should be the function name? Return text. So I just mentioned like return text. Okay, return formatted text. We'll write formatted text. So and returns the uppercase. So we learn about the uppercase also.
It's simple, just do uppercase.
Right, you are right. So here we already have learn string, and then check and convert. Check and convert. So I'll just use this URL, and this one I don't see. So we have to use the condition, right? So what is the condition of this function? To see 50 characters, greater than 50 characters, right? So we will see here.
So we need to use a for loop.
Yes, if not for loop, if condition. We will use if condition if name dot length. So you see, length is the function that is available in the string class. So let me type this code and then I will explain more about the string. Okay, so I'm just using name.length greater than 50 characters. Okay, then what I do, return name dot to uppercase. So otherwise I'll just return the input is not
Matching to
about
the criteria.
50 chars. Okay, so it's not about 50 characters, and hence what I do, I'll just mention the same whatever user has entered, so it will return the same. So this is a simple use case, very simple use case. We will learn more, more string functions inside. Okay, let's talk about string here. String, right? So what we usually use the string class. When do we use this string? Mostly when we want to assign the text format, right? So then we use string class. String class means it is a class. Okay, so we don't, it is not the primitive data type, it is the class specifically written by the developers. So you see here, string is like a normal class, whatever class we have here, right? So similar to this, string is also a class. Fine. So let's see, let's go inside this string and then see whether it is really a class or not. So how can we get inside? Neha can explain me, like, how I can see what methods are available inside the string class.
Methods meaning like?
Methods means, you see, this is my string operations controller, right?
Right.
This is the class. So inside this, we have written, what is this?
Okay.
This is a method, right?
Basically a function.
Yeah, this is the function or method written inside
okay.
this string class.
Okay.
Sorry, string operations controller class. This is our own class, right? This is our custom class. Similarly, somebody has already written who worked in Java, right? Java programming language has already have string class. So we can use that string class as and when we need, right? So we are making use of the existing built-in string class that is already available. So if I want to check what functions are available inside this string class, okay, let's see. This is string operations controller, right? So I'll go inside this comparison and then see. Okay, let's. So that's also a class, right? String operations controller is our class, right? Our own class, right? Is our own class. So what I do, I create an instance of this class. How? SOC string operations controller. How can I create an object?
Is equal to new string controller.
Correct. String operations controller. This is how I write declare the object. So SOC is the object of type this one. Isn't this similar to this? St or in the string name is equal to the only difference is this part. So forget about this. Forget about this. Isn't this and this are same? Both are similar, right? So we are creating SOC is an object of type this class. What is that? String operations controller. So here also we are declaring a variable with the name as name of type string class, right? So if we want to see what functions are available inside this string or string operations controller, what I do, I just use SOC dot and then you see whatever functions we have written. Isn't this a function or method that we have written in the controller?
Yeah. Right.
Correct, right?
Yes.
So this is the function that we have written in this class. So that this function is declared as public. That's why you are able to access in another class. if it is protected also, you can still access this one because it is in the same package, right? Okay. Now you see, similarly, if I want to see the functions of string class, how can I see what functions are already available in string? So how can I see?
Control,
Okay.
click the string, control plus click
Perfect.
on.
Correct, Anita. Yeah, control and click. It will take you to this string class. Okay. So let's try that on our own controller. This is our controller, right? So this is the controller which we have written. So on this class, I'm just, I'm just clicking control button, control key, and then placing my mouse over the string operations controller. So it highlights. Or you can just place your cursor here and press Control B. So Control B. So like this, Ctrl plus B. So it will take you directly to that class. I place my mouse keyboard cursor on string operations controller, and then I'm pressing Control B. So when I press Control B, it goes inside the class. Similarly, let me do it for string. So now you tell Neha how to go and see what functions or what's the implementation of this string class. How to get inside?
Control V.
Control B. So B for Bombay.
Okay. Yeah.
Control B. Place your cursor and then click on Control B. You see, this is a string class. You see, class, which is public. So public means what? This string can be used by anyone, right? So it is written by, you see here, decompiled .class file bytecode Java 11. So this string is of type, it's already the decompiler is Java 11. So it decompiled using this version. So you see here, forget about this one. So just focus on this one. So this string is already written, built in JDK. Okay. So we are using this string as per our requirement. So our requirement is to have the text. So the text can be represented using this string class. And this string class, we can use it because it is declared as access modifier is public. So that's why anybody can access this class. Okay, you see here, final. So I'll tell what is the importance of final, why we need to declare final here. So once you declare any variable of type string, right, you cannot change it. It means that, the value that you have already assigned to this string class, right, you cannot change it. So that's why we declare it as, final. And then you cannot change it. You cannot change it means what? You cannot modify it, right? So when you cannot modify it, the term that you have to use for interviews, right, you have to specify it as immutable. Okay, that is what I have written in the slide here. String is immutable. Why? Once you assign a value to it, it cannot be changed. Like you take an example of this. I'm declaring string HTML student name is equal to Advay. So what will it do when the Java program encounters this statement, right? What it does is, within the string pool. So there is a string pool available in the JVM. So the JVM, what it does, it has a string pool memory location. So all the objects of type string are stored inside the string pool. How? You can see this way. So Advay is there, right? So it will hold a memory location, and inside that location, it will just type it as Advay. Okay. Now, in the same program, if I mention another statement like this, string Java student name. So this is another variable, right? I'm declaring another variable in the second line of my program with the value as Advay, which is same, right? Which is same. So if we are using the value,
So it optimizes the memory.
correct. So what string pool does is, it will not create one more location because Advay is already present in the string pool. So what JVM does is, okay, Advay is already present. So this Java student name will also point to the same location. So then HTML student name and Java student name both refers to same location. Okay, stream of the same value. So which is in string pool. Suppose now I will change the value. HTML student name is equal to, so assume third statement. Assume the third statement. What I do, I will just add one more value to it. HTML student name is equal to Sneha. So the third statement is I'll use the same variable which is already declared, and I'm changing the value of the variable as Advay to Sneha. So what does it mean? Does this location value, the value inside the location which is Advay, does it get updated to Sneha? Anita?
No.
No, right?
Because
not.
the Java student name variable is already has that
Right.
Advay location.
Correct. So there is a variable which is already having Advay, so which is Java student name. So what, when the third line encounters as HTML student name is equal to Sneha, what JVM does is it will create one more location here, one more location in the string pool with the value as Sneha. Okay, so there's one more location. So Advay will not be disturbed. It will be like that only. So what happens when HTML student name is equal to Sneha comes? This location pointer is there, right? This arrow will be pointed to the new location, which is Sneha. You understood, Sneha?
Yeah, got it.
So this is all happening internally, but we will not be, aware of this actually. So we just know, like, writing the code like this. So whatever we are doing operations here, right? So name is equal to IPASMO. I write name is equal to technologies now. Okay. So when I type here, you see in the string pool, there will be there will be two locations, one with IPASMO and another with technologies. Suppose if I add one more value here, like this. So there'll be one more location that is created, one more value in the string pool. Okay, so it will not update this value when I add when I have this name is equal to technologies, right? So it doesn't replace this value. This value will still be in the string pool. Okay, when there is no use of this IPASMO word, within the program, right? So there is a concept called garbage collection. So what it does is, then it will remove the value of this IPASMO. So when it is no more used in the program. So now at this point, we have three statements here. All these three statements has got three different values. So what it does in this case, it will have three locations in the string pool. Okay, so it is not updating the existing one. That's why we say immutable. Immutable is the keyword. You remember this, okay? So now you understood. Now you understood the meaning of immutable, right? Immutable means it will not change the value. It will recreate another one. So we cannot change the existing value. When it is not changing, then we call it as immutable. So this is one of the interview questions. Okay, whenever you say why whether string is immutable or not, or they can ask whether can we change the value of a string. So here we change, right? Here we can change the value of the string, but in the string pool, there'll be two different values that are still present. So we cannot change the value. We cannot change the string. That's why we call it as immutable. When it is final, the string class is a final, right? When we say it is final, it is like a constant. So that's why you see the third statement here.
It can never change.
Right, string is an immutable, which means a constant. So immutable means it's a constant and cannot be changed once it is created. So Advai is created here and it cannot be changed. So if you change the value, then it will be creating a new string in the string pool, another string inside the string pool. So it keeps on increasing. So what happens when you keep on adding the words, new words? The string pool, the size of the string pool will get increased, right? Even if it is not being used. So what JVM does is it uses the concept called garbage collector. So it will just at certain point of time it will run and then remove all the unwanted or unused values. Okay, so that does in the background, so we won't be able to know actually. So it
How
is
does it know which values are unused?
Yes, Neha?
How does it know which values are unused? The garbage collector.
Yeah, because you see here the scope. So within this program only, the value of this name is present, right?
Right.
So if after this function, nobody uses this, right? The value is still there, but nobody uses. So when there is no processing of this function, right? No calls to this function, then the garbage collector will wait for some time to see if there are requests coming in. So if no more requests or nobody are being used, right? Then what will JVM does is, okay, it will treat it as unused and then it will take it out.
Okay. Right.
So when it comes again, when this function gets called, right? So it will assign this variable again one more time. Then it will create the same value again. So no harm, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So that's how it does actually inside. And here you understood the string pool. So string pool is also one of the interview questions. So where will be this string pool located? String pool will be located within the part of the Java heap memory. So this Java heap memory is also a new term which you need to remember, okay? For interview questions, whenever somebody asks interview questions, you just have to remember this. Fine. So we understood string is a final class. Final class is nothing but it is a constant value. So final is nothing but constant. So constant means what? Immutable. Means if once we assign the value, we cannot change it in the string pool because it creates a new one if we try to change it. Fine. So we are done with this string, and then we will see this string, right? Yes, Anita.
So the string pool is inside the Java heap memory. Then the Java heap memory is inside the JVM. Am I right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So what Java does is it has all the variables, all the classes information, right? The values or the references, it will store it in the Java heap memory only.
Also, just to confirm, you can change the string value, but you can't change the string itself.
Means repeat again. How?
Like you can change the string value, but
yeah, you can change the string value. You can change the string value, but what JVM does internally is it will create the new value inside the string pool. So here you have the string pool, right?
Right.
Okay, this is the string pool. So I'm changing the value. Okay, means assigning a new value to this variable, right?
And that gets added.
Yeah, this one will get added to string pool.
Right.
So now I'm just changing the value of name again here, and it will be added to string pool. So at this point, if you ask me at this point, these two are not being used, right? Because the way the name is already assigned with PTE here. So suppose assume that I'll have one more variable here. So I'll just mention it as, so friend name is equal to, again I will use IPASMO here. So at this point, it will not create a new one because it's already created here, right? So this one will be pointed to this one, this location.
Okay, right. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So it is that way. So now this is one way of assigning the string, right? String variable is equal to within double quotes. You have to mention the double quotes and add the text like this. Okay, so here I mentioned, like, if the value is changed, it will be added a new value in the string pool. So there is another way of assigning a value to a string. So let's see here. Okay, so
By reference data type.
yeah, so which is correct, like object creation. So what I do, this is one way. Okay, so another way, let's see here. So I'll type the second one. So this is the second way. Second way, how I can do, so I should not give this. So what I do, I give using the new, because it's a class, right? And it has got the constructor. If it has got the constructor, then you can create an object of string like this. So can you tell me why this one is highlighted in red? Adri?
Duplicate.
Because friend name 1 is already declared in the scope.
Perfect. So we have to use the another variable. So same variable name we cannot use. If you want to use the same variable name, what you have to do, you have to take this one out like this. Then it should work. If you don't want to use the same variable, you have to declare it with another name, and then you can use this. So this is second way. So you can also use this. So this is another way of assigning the string to a variable. So in this way, right, when you do the second way, the value of this friend name will be saved how?
In
Saved
the
in
Java heap
heap
memory, not in
memory. See here, I'm using the Python student name. Again, I'm giving the value as Advay. So it can directly refer to string pool, right? But we are using the new keyword here. When we are using the new keyword, it is like creating an object of type string. So when we talk about object, the reference will be stored in the Java heap memory. So that's why Advay is kept separately in the Java heap memory. Now, after this, right? After this, I can change the value of. So here you can see like yeah, you can do substring. There are a lot of functions actually available inside. So, or you can, yeah, let me replace. So I'm replacing the value. Now, so I'm using the replace all function, which is available in string class. What it does, replace all tries to find this text inside this friend name 2 variable. So if the friend name 2 has got text IPASMO, right, then it will replace this value with technologies. Okay, let's see all these things in the program here, string operations here. Okay, now we are giving the passing the value, and we are checking the length is greater than 50, and then we do return the uppercase text back as the response. Otherwise, if it is less than 50, we just return whatever is being sent. So let's start this. So here I'm just using the input value that is passed. Okay, after this, this one this part, the value is stored in the heap memory. So there is nothing much here. So let me explain the string buffer and string builder later after this program execution. Okay, now. Okay, Sneha, can you tell me what will be the URL pattern here?
HTTP.
Okay, HTTP.
Then slash, yeah, and then the request machine, right? /API/learn-.
Okay, so what will be the port number?
Oh,
Port
yeah.
number is a must. Port
Yeah,
number is
yeah, Wait, is it the same as the one before?
Where can I find the port number?
Application properties.
Correct. It should be in the resources. So all the configuration files will be in the resources folder. And inside this resources, you'll have the application.properties. Here we have specified 8090.
Yeah.
So you should use 8090 here. And then we go to the class. Where is our class? Our class is here. Go to the class level mapping.
Yeah. /API/learn-string.
Okay, 1 second. Give me a second. Okay, sorry. Yeah, the API/learn string. So we are learning the string. So we'll give the path learn string and then method level mapping. So method level mapping is written formatted text, right? So I'll just use this value and then use it here. Yeah, here I'm passing the request param.
Yeah.
So how to do this? How to add the request parameter here?
Is it question mark?
Okay, and
then
name is equal to value. So what is the name of the parameter? In this case, name of the parameter is name only, right? So I'll just keep the name, and what value I want to pass, I'll just pass some default text. So let's find some default text. So what shall we find? We'll find about okay, public holidays. We'll see about this. I need some kind of text actually. So I'll just use the text here. Okay, and then I can paste it here. So I'll just pass some junk text here, then press enter. So the text that I have passed, right, it is more than 50 characters, right? So that's why what it does, it will convert all the text into capital letters, and then it will.
The spaces are counted. The spaces are counted as well.
Which one?
The spaces, is that also counted? It's counted as a character.
It is
Yeah. Correct.
counted as plus. So
Correct.
then that is
actually, the space is actually, the value.
character.
Yeah, correct. It is also considered as a character. So the browser treats it as %20 as a code for space. Okay. So it is treated as a character only, and then the program will understand. So whenever it encounters %20, the Java understands it as space. So it's all internally done. So the browser, while sending, it sends as %20, and then it will be converted and then sent as space character. So that's all internal processing of the the browser. Okay, so what here it does is I have given the text which is greater than 50 characters here. So this name is actually some value, and then it is converted. So it matches this condition. It matches this condition, and it is converting it to uppercase. Fine. So now we'll see less than 50 characters. Okay. So less than 50 characters, how shall we do? I'll just mention it as. So I just mention it as I passed one. Okay, I'll just enter. So it is less than 50 characters, and then the condition is not satisfied. So it will just send me the response of whatever I have written. So the input is not above 50 characters. So it just returns me the same text. So I did not do any operations on that. Now you see, being a good developer, right? Our program should be fail-safe. Fail-safe means what? You see here, I don't do anything here. I don't input anything. I'll just press enter. So you see what happened? It didn't print anything. This is fine. And if I miss out this part, so what is happening? URL pattern is not matching because we have given this one as mandatory. Mandatorily, you need to have the name parameter. So if you want to allow the user, that this is an optional value, name is an optional. So what you can do, you can just add a parameter for request parameter, which is required. There is a param called required.
So we'll write required is equal to false.
Just make it as required is equal to false, and then restart the program, and your program should be able to process even if you don't send a name parameter, right? So it should be processed. Okay, now you see this, why I'm telling is, for a good programmer, he has to do this. Actually, he has to check whether this field should be mandatory or not mandatory. If it is mandatory, then by default it is a request parameter mandatory, so you need not mention this. If it is not mandatory, then you have to add this. Okay, let's see. I just use this, press enter. You see, it's not matching this criteria. So what we have to do is we have to give a question mark and name. There should be a name, and then I don't want to pass any values, which is same. But you see what is happening here.
An exception case.
Yes, because I don't have any value for this name, right? If you see here, I'm not passing anything here. If I don't pass anything, what will happen is this name variable doesn't have any value. Means it is pointing to an empty location where there is no value. So if it is pointing to empty location where there is no value, and our program will be going into exception mode, means not running properly. So what it says, null. So what do you mean by null? Null is a
Nothing.
Yeah, null is nothing, empty. So it's like, there is no link to any memory location. So it's not pointing to any memory location. So what we have to do in this case is we have to see, we have to add a condition to see if it is not null, and check whether it is having a length condition. So means what the program does is, you have to
So we need to write
allow this.
if name is not equal to null and
Yes.
and
Name
name
not is equal to
no.
name.
Oh yeah.
And you have to add one more
And.
condition. What? And. It means whatever value that is coming here, that value should not be pointing to an empty location. Okay. And the value should be greater than 50 characters. Then it will convert it into uppercase. Okay. Otherwise, it will go to this place and then it will execute this one. Okay. Now we see this. Okay, let it execute. So we'll go to the next slide and see the string buffer and string builder. So we have the string class already, right? Which is final. So it is immutable. So some developers felt a situation where they want the string to be, the value of the string to be changed. So if we want to make it as, the value can be changed, means the value that is stored in the object reference can be changed. So they want some mutable classes. So mutable classes is the value can be changed. If you want that kind of classes, they came up with string buffer in the earlier versions of Java. So when earlier versions of Java, they implemented, they created a new class, which is string buffer. And this string buffer will provide a lot of additional features, which are not provided in a default string class. So all those will be available in the string buffer class. Okay. So what this string buffer class does? So string buffer class, what it does is it does the same operations like string, but it can change the values. And why we need to go with string buffer? So in multi-threaded environment means two persons trying to access the same function. So that is called multiple.
At the same time, the CPU is processing too.
Correct. So two people are accessing at the same time, same function. So our program should be able to handle, right? So what, how it should handle? So that's why we make the functions as synchronized. So what is the synchronized? Synchronized means it will allow access to both the threads. Both the threads will assume that, you know, two people. So two people are trying to call. So the JVM, what it does, whenever it is synchronized, it will make, you know, whoever comes first, right? It will allow access to that person. So that person processes the function, and after that, the second person will be allowed to access. So that's why, you know, we say it as thread safe. So this part is very important for interview questions. So when you go for any interviews, they'll ask, what's the difference between string buffer and string builder? Why we need, what is the need for string builder when string buffer is there? So I'm going to explain this part here. So here, string buffer is a synchronized, whereas string builder is also same like string buffer. The only difference is it is non-synchronized. You remember this. So non-synchronized, you just try to understand the other meaning of what I explained for string buffer. So it is the opposite way. Like string buffer is a synchronized. Synchronized means what? One after the other. So read out this example. Two threads can call the methods of this class one after the other. So JVM will provide access to first thread, and once the first thread is completed processing, then it will allow the second thread to.
So does the string builder save more time?
No, it is one after the other, right?
No,
Yeah. String builder, you are right. You are right, perfectly right. So string builder, what it does? String builder is non-synchronized. Non-synchronized means two people can come and then, you know, process the same function. Like if I have if I keep 5 apples in a room and I ask 5 people to go inside and collect the apples, what it happens? 5 people can enter into that room and then pick one apple by each person and then come out safely, right? So that is best. Or if 5 people going into the room one after the other, one by one. So it has got its own plus and minus, right? Advantages and disadvantages. One after the other will allow everyone to get a chance, and it's like, you know, queue, one after the other. So everybody will get a chance to get inside the room and pick one apple in a decent way. Whereas in other case, the time is important. So what happens? Everybody gets inside the room and then they pick one by one and come out, right? So that is the other one. So it depends, like, you know, what kind of requirement is there. Based on that requirement, you have to implement whether it is a string buffer or string builder. Means if you want your application to be multi-threaded, and if you want to be not the thread safe, if you want to allow, like, you know, not thread safe, then you go with string builder. Means when person comes, he will take one apple, right? The other person comes, at that point he will see only 4 apples. It should be something like that. So at the same point, so it is like, you know, simultaneously 2 threads can call the methods of string builder functions simultaneously. So there are chances that, you know, 2 people trying to take the same apple, what will happen? It's a problematic situation, right? So the same thing happens in string builder also. So we have to handle it fairly, you know. So the implementation. So you have to
handling string builder is also like difficult.
No, you need not do anything inside the string builder. So where you declare the variable or object of type string builder makes the difference. If you are using it inside the class level, right, then you should be careful, because the class level is applicable to the access modifier scope. So whatever access modifiers that you are specifying, right, so it has scope to all those classes. So when it has scope to all those classes, you should be very careful. Like, you know, the thread can be from anywhere. The request can be coming from any place. So at that point, you have to see. Suppose if you are declaring string builder in a function, within the function, same function, right? You no need to worry actually. You can go with string buffer at the time. So because whatever request comes inside, so the string buffer is already within declared within the same function. So at that point, you don't need to worry much actually. Right? So by looking at this, string buffer does one by one, right? One after the other. So when it does one after the other, we treat it as less efficient than string builder. Okay, and string buffer and string builder both are mutable. Whereas in string builder, you see, string builder is more efficient than string buffer. Okay, when you implement these two classes, you'll come to know. So I'm going to explain that part later. So
So
for now, you see
is
here.
a string buffer more like accurate?
No, we cannot say it as accurate. We cannot, it is requirement specific actually. So if it is a single threaded application, right? So you can go with this string buffer. So you don't have, it's already thread safe, right? So you can make use of string builder. So you don't have a way that two threads will be coming and then accessing the function, right? So at that point, you can straight away create this string builder or string buffer. No, not much difference, because in this second case also, you know that only one thread can be accessed, right? So there is no way that two threads coming. So at that point, it's up to you. Like you can use anything, anyone. Okay. So for now, that is a conceptual, conceptual text. So I explained that for your interviews or for explaining purposes. So whenever you have a chance to talk more on programming languages, you can just make notes of this. Fine. And Anita, it would be useful for you. So here, yeah, let's see. So I'm trying to go here. I restarted the service. So at this place, when I try to enter, you see here it is not going to throw null pointer exception. So this is like we are going back to the program because string, name is null. Okay, the value of the name is empty. So even if it is empty, it's not. It is checking this condition. So it is not null. Means it is failing here itself, right? So when it fails here, it will not execute this block and it goes to this return statement. Okay. So if I add some value, then it will check this condition. Yeah, name is having the value as ABC. And let's see if its length is also greater than 50. So it's greater than 50. So in earlier case, why null pointer exception occurred is this name is a null, means it is referring to an empty location. So in an empty location, if you try to find length, what will happen? It bounces back, right? So that's what happened earlier case. So there was a null pointer exception thrown in earlier case if you don't specify this. Okay, so I will talk more about the exceptions in the next classes. Okay, the upcoming classes. Okay, so where I will explain you how to handle the
It is
exceptions.
try and catch.
Yeah, correct. So we use the try and catch block for handling the exceptions. So in this case, we are avoiding the exception. Means I am not allowing the exception to happen itself. So with this condition, I'm adding the condition. So what it does is it will never throw a null pointer exception in this case. So I'm avoiding that part. So next classes, right, we'll see how to handle. Okay, I don't want to add this condition, and then if any exception occurs, right, I want to pass a proper message to the user. Then how will I handle? So that one I'll explain in the next class. And yeah, let's see. I'll try to complete this looping techniques. So this is pretty much simple, very simple actually. So you just have to by heart this part. So for loop, while loop, and do while loop. I'll just give you the concept. So I'll take another 5 minutes and then we'll wrap up the class. So now let's take an example use case, a small use case. So what I do, I will just duplicate this one. Okay, I'll just make use of yeah. So max. So I'll just use the max. Max print numbers. Okay, I'll just print the numbers. This is max. So here I will return it as learn for loop, while loop, and do while loop. Okay, so we learn about this in the process result. So here I have to change this. So I'll just mention it as okay loop, and here
For loop.
yeah, here actually I can add a new variable like dynamic value. So this is a type. Okay, so yeah, this part better. I'll take it in the next class. That would be better. So loop, and then here inside this loop, I'll mention the type actually. So what type I want to.
Sir, you should do like required is equal to true in this case, right?
Yeah, I don't need to mention the required is equal to 2.
Yeah,
because
but
by
you can
default it is by default true, right? So now I got this max. So what I do is the use case is like this. So what use case does is print the numbers up to max value. So this is a simple use case. So this is a simple use case for the max value. Okay, so this part I will just
we can use the for loop.
so I'll just mention it as success. So return success. With response. Okay, I'll add the response also. So this is the response. Response is not declared. So in IntelliJ, right? So usually you have to declare the variable first, right? So but I have declared it here, and I don't want I want to auto create the declaration part, right? So what I do is I place my mouse over there and then press Alt Enter. This is a new thing that you are learning. Alt Enter. So when you press Alt Enter, the IntelliJ will help you. So create local variable or class level variable or parameter response. So something like that. So I'll create a local variable. So this is my local variable. So the type is string only. Yeah. Now it complains it is not initialized. Might not have been initialized. So you need to initialize the value. So I'll just initialize the value to empty. Okay. Now take this max. So max is of type what? String. So we don't want to have the number as a string, right? So let us see what happens. So for this, yeah, what is that we are learning now? For loop, right? So let's see for loop. So the syntactical notation for loop is, you see here, it uses the for keyword. Okay, for keyword, give a space, and then open bracket, close bracket, and then give a parenthesis here, like this. Flower bracket, sorry, flower bracket, give a parenthesis here, and this is the complete template actually for loop template. So there are multiple for loops actually, so that I will be talking later actually. Like object types also you can use it, but now we will do the incremental for loop. So the declaration goes like this. You have to declare a variable, 3 parts, 1, 2, yeah, and then 3 parts are there in a for loop. You remember it.
First part should be the variable declaration, and second
Yes.
is the
First,
condition.
yeah, first part is the assignment. Assignment means what? Int I. So usually in the for loop, right, we'll just use single character variable. Okay, I is a variable of type int, and I will be taking the value of I as 0. And then instead of comma, the separator is semicolon.
Semicolon.
So this is the assignment. So after this assignment, I need to have an expression. Second parameter is expression. Okay, expression means what? The condition. So how to check the condition? I, so I is the variable. So the same variable we will take, and then we'll check the condition as less than max. Okay, max. So if I specify value of max as 10, right? So up to 10 it
It
will
is
be.
showing an error because max is a string.
Correct. You see, the both should be, I is of type int, and int and string cannot be compared, right? So we'll just place it like this. Second parameter is done, and third parameter is again the incremental value. Like you can do I plus plus. Okay, increment operator. We will be using increment operators. This is a general syntax for loop. Now you see max, right? Max is of type string. So I want to compare number here, convert the string value to a number. So there is a way to convert
Integer dot
string
parse
to
int.
integer. So let me type it here. There is a way to
You need to use the integer class.
convert string max to a number. So how? We have integer class. Integer is for numbers. Okay, integer class, and then you see what functions are available. Static functions. So there is a function called parse int. So you see here, what does it take as a parameter? It is taking a parameter as a string, and then that string will be converted to what? Parse int. So it will be converted to int. So you just pass the max value inside. Now this becomes the int value, right?
Integer.
Correct. So what happens in this case? If you specify this as at this place, it will check this integer at parsing. So every time it parses, right? I don't want to load the Java process. So the developer must always think like this. So every time it tries to parse it for the iteration 0. It comes here, and then next it will process this one. Just check the condition. So again it will parse it.
Variable.
Correct. So here what I do is we have to take out this part and assign it to a variable. So instead what I do, I press Control Enter. You see it doesn't do anything. So let's see here, Control Alt Enter. Sorry, Alt Enter. It's not using. So I will select this part, right click, refactor, and then introduce a constant, introduce a field, introduce a variable. So I'll just introduce a variable. So I introduce a variable, and this is int max. Enter. So I have converted in the beginning itself. After conversion, I just use this value, number value, and then assign it here. So here response. So here I will use assignment operator. Okay. So what's the assignment operator? Is equal to, right?
Yeah.
So here I will use assignment operator. What assignment operator? Plus is equal to. So instead of this, first let me try to do this. Response is equal to. So what is the response value here at this place? It is empty. Okay. So here it does response plus I. So what I'm trying to do is, response is of type string. So I'm collecting the numbers here. So take one number, So take the 0th number and then as add it to response. So response is empty. So when it comes to 0th loop, it will add to this response. So now response become 0 here. So for the second iteration, it checks I++. So I++ is like, after completion of this processing, it will execute this statement. So this statement is incremented. So incremented means by 1, right? So I at this place will become 1. So the next loop, next iteration, what happens is response and then plus I is already 1 at this place. So 0 is already there and then 1 it will take. Okay. So here, this is of type what? Assignment operator. What type? A is equal to A plus 5. So if you encounter this, what you can write? A
plus equal to 5.
A plus is equal to 5. Okay. So you can make, you can use that statement also here. Because A plus is equal to, and then you can remove this one like this. Okay. So here, I want to add a space. So what I do? Response and then added a character here. After this, I will add a space here. Okay. I'll add a space. So 0 space 1 space 2 space.
Also, you can do /n. You can do /n.
No, /n goes, yeah, /n goes in the next line. So yeah, you can do that also, /n.
Or /t. Oh, it will go.
And then response, yeah. Here I'm taking the response, pasting it here. Okay, so this is the syntax of the for loop. So it takes the assignment and then expression and then increment operator here. So we have this type also, right? So let's check the type. If null not equal to type, so the type should not be null, and type is a string, right? Type dot equals ignore case. So in earlier case, what we did is equal to we use, right? So here in this case, we have to use equals method. Equals method is inside the string type. So here what we do, we will use for loop. So when the type is for, we want it to execute this part. So in this case, this part is always same, right? So I'll just keep it out. Okay, so this if block, so whenever there is a value of type as for, then it will execute this block. Similarly, I'll just make else if control V. So I'll just take it out, and type is not, yeah, here it is. Okay, instead of this, yeah, this is while, right? So I'll just make it as WHILE. So while is also same. While is also same, but we declare the variables just before. So we'll just make it as while space.
So while
condition. Here it just checks the condition. It checks the condition. So I is not declared. Let's declare I is equal to 0. So we are declaring a variable I here, and then we want the condition to be checked. Okay, 0 less than 10. This condition 0 less than 10, true, yes. So it gets inside this, and then response is equal to response plus the value of I. I is 0 at this place. So after I, what we need to do, we want to increment. So what I do here, I will do handle on myself. I is equal to I plus 1. So the value of I becomes 1 here. So we are not using increment operator. We are using our own assignment operator here. Okay. So this is while loop syntax. So while it checks the condition. If this condition is true, it will go inside and executes this. And then it will keep on continuing until this condition becomes false. Okay, for loop is also same. Until this condition is true, it will keep on processing the logic. If it fails, then it will not execute. It will not go for the next iteration, right? So in the first iteration itself, in the while, so it will check the condition. There is another way, which is
Do while.
do while. So I'll just make it as do while. So do while is also same, but this condition is there, right? This condition,
So the code block will be in the do and the condition will be in while.
yeah, here it will become semicolon here, I less than int max. Okay, and here this one will become do. So what it does is, what is the difference between this while loop and this one? So here the assignment is already done. At any point of time, it will enter into this loop at least one time. So it will get inside this do block, and it will process this, and after processing this, it will check this condition. So if this condition is successful, then it will go to next iteration. Otherwise, it will exit from here. This is a do while implementation. Okay, so to to show the difference, so what I do, I will just I is there, right? So instead of I will add a value of 1 to it. So here in this case, I will print from 1 here. In this case, I will print from 2. Okay, I plus 2. So 0 plus 2. So the first starting character in the first for loop will be 0, and here it will be 0 plus 1 is how much? 1. So the starting character would be 1 here, and the starting character in do while is 2. So we will run this program, and then we are done for today. So any questions, you just post on WhatsApp. So Sneha, I want you to actually practice this part. This part is very, very, very important for programmers.
Yes, we'll do that.
So actually, practice is the main thing in programming. So if you learn this part, right, whatever you have learned so far, all other languages follows the same pattern. JavaScript, CSS, and then Python, and then Ruby on Rails. So you take any other language, so any other programming language, everything follows the same. The only difference is the usage of syntax. The syntax would be different. Yeah, syntax would be slightly different. Okay, fine. It is started. So let's see. Ours is loop, right? So let's open this. Go here. This one is loop, right? Okay, loop. Question mark. We are using max is equal to. I'll just use 10. Okay, and then after 10, ampersand type. So I'll use for loop here. So for loop, it is using 0 to 9. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So here instead of for, I will just use while. So when I use while, it should be starting with 1, right? So it starts with 1. So if I add do here, it should start with 2 to 11. Okay, fine. So we are printing up to here. So the negative aspects of this program, right, we will discuss in the next class. Okay, negative aspects means when there is an issue, or when how to fail this condition. Yeah, how to fail this condition in the beginning itself and all. We will see. Okay, so this, yeah, if I enter 1 to here, type, you see, if I, sorry, what is this? For. So this is for, and then while is also 1. So this way you can just change the values here, and it will print those many numbers. If you add one more 0 here using while loop, it will print like this. So keep on adding zeros and see, try for yourself how many times, how long it can print. int, right? So max int is int, so it cannot print more than 3 to 6 7 3 to 4 3 to 5 6 7. So the max value of int. Fine. Yeah, yeah, we have seen
So
this
the
for
time when you said like the garbage collectors, right? In Python, it is underscore del found in the class.
no, that is different actually. That is a different topic. So maybe I'll see if I can find any info on that.
So can you change the practice work?
Yeah, practice work, fine. I'll post it. Okay, I'll update this sheet and then send it to you, because loops and all we learned just now, right? So that's why I just kept it like this so that you all can practice. So Sneha, Anita, Ila Bharati, and then Aditya, I want you all to practice it. Okay, this one, all this practice work, right? Now you can really implement, because you have learned the loopings and all loopings, and then for loop, and then the primitive
If
data
block.
types, strings and all. Okay, so you can print the prime numbers here, which is less than 20, and then sequence. So this sequence also you can print. So initial value will be 0, and then add 5 to it. So add 5 to it. So every time it prints. Fine. So I'm done from my side. Anything you just post on the chat group. So I'll send you the sheet. Okay, the slides to you all. Okay. So thank you all. See you in the next class. And happy New Year to all of you. So let bless you all with good health, wealth, and prosperity in the upcoming year 2022. Happy New Year to all of you.
Happy New Year, sir.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, see you in the next class. Okay, bye bye.
Bye bye.